Okay, I guess I'm live. So if you are joining me, thanks so much for joining my first live YouTube. I've been doing live Facebook videos. This is a little new technology, so I appreciate you jumping on here to watch. If you're watching the replay, awesome. I also am going to apologize. My voice is kind of shot today. I think it's a combination of allergies. Everything is in bloom here, which is gorgeous, but it is killing my respiratory system. And then I have been singing tenor for a musical, and I'm normally soprano. And so I think that's kind of pushing my limits a little bit too. I think it's really cool. I'm getting to explore more of my range and getting to push that. But singing really low notes and probably not having the best technique at the moment is also kind of killing it. So bear with me. But today, as kind of a tribute to Mental Health Awareness Month, that was May, I wanted to talk about judgments and criticism. So this is something that's been coming up with a few of my clients lately, and I'm by no means an expert in this, but I have been learning a lot from some wonderful mentors, some of which I've never met, that I've been, listening to or reading their content, and also just my own life experiences and what's going to give you better mental health in the long run. So judgments, criticism, I'm specifically talking about judgments today, but I think criticism is kind of the same thing, more or less. I mean, obviously they're different, but for the purposes of this video, I want to kind of lump judgment and criticism into the same thing. So I might use those words interchangeably. I'm talking about the same idea. But something that's been coming up is a lot of people worrying about what other people are going to think of them. What, I don't even know how to say it, like, how other people are viewing them, how that negatively affects their perception of themselves. I know this is a big thing for me as well. I mean, everyone, I think, wants other people to like them. I doubt there's anyone on earth that does not want at least one person to like them. I think most of us are big people pleasers and we want everyone to like us. And I think that's physically impossible. And that's something that, has been one of those hard truths that I've been learning over the course of my life. And, if my parents are watching this, there's nothing bad going on in my life right now. Don't worry, Mom. Just talking about experiences in general. So there's a really wonderful quote that I post all over the place. I love it. It's from Dita Von Teese. She was a burlesque artist. And it's, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, but there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches. Take that in a minute. I'm going to say it again. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be someone who hates peaches. It's true. Like, all we can do is really be our best self and know that we are going to attract people that really vibe with us, that like us for who we are. If we are trying to please everyone, we are pleasing no one. I've got a zillion quotes for this kind of thing, but I want to jump into a little bit more of the background on this first. So when we are receiving judgment from someone, we need to remember that that is something going on with them. When we judge others, when others judge us, or judge other people, it's not really about the person that is receiving the judgment or having judgment placed on them. It is about the person making the judgment. So, for instance, if someone is judging someone as fat, that says something about their judgment that fat is bad. They've had a negative connotation with that, that they have been trained to think that way. That does not mean that the person is fat, that fat is a bad thing, that they, like, it's really the messaging. And I think it, goes along with racism as well. So we are born, I think, being accepting of everyone as long as they're nice to us. Somewhere along the way, we are taught how to perceive other people. So in terms of things like racism, we are taught that different races are different, like, I don't know, classes of people or something, and that they are the other. And this can go for, any kind of thing. So how people look can be the color of their skin, their sexual sexual orientation, their religion, the way they do something, their belief system. We usually judge against people who are the other. And I'm guilty of this too. I think we all have judgments, even subconscious judgments that we put on people, even if we're like, oh yeah, I don't really have any judgments about that. Like, we probably do. We all have our own personal biases. So that's something for on the internal side, when you're thinking about other people and you're placing judgment. I think it's human. We are going to make some judgments. Now, I'm not a therapist. I haven't extensively studied this, but my personal opinion is that, we have thoughts and feelings. That is totally normal. That's human. I don't think we can do a lot or should do a lot to change who we are in terms of how we think, except that we can learn from experiences and we can have an awareness. So when we're putting judgment on someone else, if we're, seeing them as the other, we need to take a step back, and hopefully we're not saying these things out loud, first of all. You can see all the things that are getting into Twitter battles and stuff right now. But we can take a step back and look and say, where is this coming from? Why am I putting this judgment? Is this really an important thing to me? Is it something, where did I learn this? Is this something that still is true? Is this something I learned when I was 4 years old, and for some reason it's in my mind, even though I don't believe it anymore in reality? Or, kind of finding that stuff. A lot of times it's based around jealousy. I think that's a big part of it for me when I have judgments. I judge people that I feel I'm in competition with. I think that's a lot of people. So that's more or less what I want to say about putting judgments out there. I think really increasing your self-awareness, asking yourself, where is this coming from? And then trying to rewrite the script for yourself. So if it's something that still doesn't ring true to you, like maybe it's something you learned when you were really young and it's not a truth for you anymore, you can choose to try to rewrite the script in your head. So when you're having a judgment about someone and saying, oh, they're XYZ, and you're like, oh, wait, what does that mean for me? Why is that an important thing that I am projecting onto them? What does that say about me? Is that something I'm afraid of? Is that something that I want? Is that something that is unknown to me and so it's scary? Looking at those things and then seeing what you can do about that on the other end. Okay, so I want to move on to the part that I think most of you are tuning in for, and that is receiving judgment. Because I think that's harder, because we're all our own worst critic, and criticisms sit with us better than praise. So let's say you wrote an article and there was a comment section and there's 100 comments and 99 of them are super positive comments. People are loving it. They're getting great content out of it. They think you're wonderful, and you have one negative comment. We are designed to be drawn to that negative comment, right? We will take that criticism very harshly. That will be the thing that clouds our entire judgment. And it's almost as if those 99 positive comments never happened. And I think this is something that we all do. I totally do this. I fixate on negative comments. I think a lot of people do. But here's where a mindset shift can come into place as well. So we need to, again, when we just talked about when we are putting judgments on others, how we are receiving judgments is knowing that it's something going on with the person giving the judgment. So it isn't necessarily about us. Sometimes it can be, but most of the time it really has nothing to do with us, what we're doing, what we look like, whatever. It is something going on with the person creating that judgment. They probably have some fear or jealousy around this issue. So I like to go back to the comment of, commenting on someone being fat or something, because I think it's really relevant to my client base. Because if you don't know me already, I'm a registered dietitian. I work with eating disorders. There's a link to get my weekly newsletter in the description below this, and I'll also link to just my website in general if you want more information. I also have a series of YouTube videos on eating disorders and debunking fad diets. Sorry, shameless little plug. Back to the topic. But when we are receiving judgments, and so I was talking about someone calling someone fat. So that is a really negative comment. Obviously, no one wants to be called fat, but it also isn't necessarily true. I want you to let this sink in. When someone judges you, when someone calls you something, labels you something, it isn't necessarily true. It is something that they are afraid of. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's something that they find to be negative or they want you to think is negative. It can be a mind game. Someone can be saying something literally to just mess with your head. So it doesn't necessarily mean the objective statement. So if someone is calling you fat, they are probably very afraid of becoming fat themselves, or someone has called them fat, or they were raised with the script in their household or something that fat is bad. It's not, if you're healthy, it's really not a thing. We all have fat. It's just like we all have fingernails. And you can apply this to other judgments too. You know, again, it's that fear of the other, or in some cases, a jealousy. So when we're receiving judgments, really look at the perspective of it's something that that other person is going through. So, you know, whatever is being said to you, and I can't think of other great examples off the top of my head, but whatever is being said to you, it is 99.9% of the time something that is going on with the person putting that judgment on you. So I would say you don't necessarily need to change your life based on a comment someone says. I think a lot of times the negative comments can spiral out of control, and that can be a really scary thing. A lot of times that negative comment, especially about someone's weight or body, ends up spiraling into an eating disorder later down the road. That's been the story with a lot of people that I've talked with. Yeah, so, you know, if you're putting judgments on people, be careful what you're saying, what you're doing. I mean, actions speak louder than words, but words can really cut. That old phrase of, you know, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. So not true. Words hurt people. Words definitely hurt people. They can stick with them for a long time. So be careful about what you're saying to other people, what actions you're putting that are portraying that you are, you know, inadvertently saying it through your actions, but also when those things come at you, because they will, know that it's not always about you, and that you don't necessarily need to do anything about it. Sometimes we are going to receive constructive criticism on things, especially if it's from, you know, someone who does have your best interest in mind, a teacher, a best friend, a loved one. Constructive criticism and feedback is different than judgment in this sense, as long as it's coming from the right place and from the correct individual to be giving that judgment. So if it's, you know, an expert in the field and there's someone who knows you well and they're giving you constructive criticism, that's probably something to take into consideration. If it's someone who doesn't know you or does not have your best interest in mind, that might not be the person to be taking that comment from. I also want to add in something else. So also for those of you that don't know me, I do a lot of acting as well. Again, hence the voice is dying right now. Explained that at the beginning. But I do some research into, you know, acting techniques and things like that. And so I found a really wonderful resource online. And this is, I am not an affiliate for them. This is no plug for it. But learning from Amy Jo Berman. She's a former casting director. She has some content out there. And something she said about judgment that really stuck with me and really is helping me to shift my mindset. I am not there yet. I still have a long way to go myself, which is, I think, why this is a really important topic to me. But she said, you know, what would it be like if you were willing to just receive judgment? Just let it wave over you and not let it affect your life. One of the things that she was really big on is that, you know, for all the really mega stars out there, you know, I think her example was Angelina Jolie or something. Do you think she receives judgment? Of course, everyone, like, you know, probably a million people per second are judging her on something she's doing, whether, you know, it's the way she raises her kids or does her career or her tattoos or, you know, whatever. And, you know, she's just trucking along and making millions of dollars. And how can we apply that to our lives? You know, Amy's concept is that for every judgment we receive, it's like getting $5,000. So if we're willing to truly receive and accept that judgment, that is money or karma in the bank. You know, like if we can just take it and not let it completely derail our life, our day, our career, our mental health, that is something that is going to actually like fortify us, because judgments are going to happen. It's a fact of life, whether they are said straight to our face, behind our back, by someone that we will never meet and never hear from, but they're just talking about us. Judgments are going to happen. So if we can receive them with some grace and move past them, we're going to go on to have better days, better lives, better careers, relationships, and better self-esteem. So I want to leave you with one final quote, and I don't have it in front of me, so I might get it wrong, and I don't remember who said it. But the only way to avoid criticism: to say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. I have that quote on my Instagram feed somewhere, so go check that out, or you can Google it and find out who said it. Thank you so much if you tuned in live or if you're watching the replay. Thanks for joining me for my first YouTube live, and I hope that you will subscribe and get the weekly videos. Usually they are pre-recorded, edited, and more surrounding eating disorders and nutrition. I have a couple of playlists going right now. So I have the eating disorder education. It is for both people who are struggling with eating disorders, loved ones, and medical providers or therapists. It's educational. I have another thread on debunking common fad diets. I would also love to hear which fad diets you want me to review next. I'm digging into the scientific literature and telling you the good, the bad, and the really ugly about those. And now I am starting a new playlist, and this is just kind of random information with me. So this video will be in that playlist, along with I have another one coming up pretty soon on registered dietitians versus nutritionists and what's the difference. So I hope you will subscribe and join me. Make sure to check out the links in the description below this video, and I will see you very soon.